Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation consists of two parts. One part is some primary research that we have done pertaining to the macro trend of Singaporeans' property purchase. And the second part is a micro survey that we have conducted in the last seminar, which is the last quarter, among the participants of our ST Property seminar. So with this, you will be able to gain an insight into some of the preferences of our fellow Singaporean investors when it comes to property investment. Okay, the first one is that all of us know from primary data that property market in Singapore continues to soften. Volume is down by 50%, and so as home prices. So this is nothing new. But in 2013, based on the MAS reports, it also indicate that the foreign property purchase of Singaporeans had hit 2 billion, which is up 43% year on year. Just that 2 to 3 days back, there's another report by MAS that indicates that in 2014, which is this year, the first half, there's a reduction in terms of the foreign property purchase compared to the first half of last year. So we'll wait for the whole year data coming from MAS to know whether 21.4 is it eventual drop compared to 21.3. But we do see a significant increase in interest among Singaporean buyers of foreign property. Okay, do you want to venture into guess which overseas market is the top choice for Singaporeans? Anyone? Australia, thank you very much. Actually, the answer is Malaysia. This MAS is not Malaysian Airline. It's actually our Monetary Authority of Singapore. So if I were to read out this report to you, it says that the hottest overseas real estate market for Singaporean investors during last year, which is 2013, splurge on foreign property, was Malaysia, going by central bank estimate, which is our MAS. The country accounted for slightly more than half of the real estate investment abroad last year. So which means that if let's say it's 2 billion, 1 billion has flowed into Malaysia, and followed by Britain and Australia. I think she's also right. Britain and Australia has always been all-time favorites. The latest MAS estimate shows that the share of purchase in terms of property value in Malaysia jumped from 2012. Consultants said that this is due to a spike in interest in Iskandar last year. But that's for last year. This year, it will be interesting for us to know whether this interest is being sustained. Okay, if you want to see more of such reports, you can go to ST Property, go to the news, and then you can see overseas property news, Singapore property analysis reports, and Singapore property news. And all these are archived from our Straits Times and Business Times about property. So you can actually access all these primary data or secondary data reports from our site. Okay, next, the second part is I want to share with you some snapshot of the survey result from our previous ST Property seminar and showcase, which I hope you guys can also fill up for this time round so that you can track the differences. Okay, the survey result is quite consistent with the MAS report. When we asked the audience, which country are you interested to invest in? Malaysia is still featured prominently with 42%. And the red quadrant is indicated by Australia, which this lady has rightly pointed out, which is second all-time favorite. But the other notable finding that we detected is the dark blue one, which is over here, 14%. The third largest interest is actually Philippines. So Philippines has come out significantly in terms of interest among Singaporean investors. If I were to recall correctly, last year when we conducted the same survey, Philippines was only 10%, but now it has increased to 14%. So it goes to show that Singaporeans are looking at some other alternative markets other than Malaysia, especially after Malaysia implemented the cooling measure. So Philippines becomes the next obvious choice. Because for Australia and UK, usually the segment is dominated by a niche group of Singaporeans who have some connection there. Either they have studied there before or they intend to send their children there to study. But otherwise, if the person hasn't been to Australia or UK before, it's more likely that he'll go for the nearer market like Malaysia or Philippines. Later, I'll share with you what are some of the reasons why they decided to go for such market. Okay, next is what is your source of information for investing in property? So newspapers still featured quite prominently, 30%, and followed by the search engine like Google or Yahoo, online property portal like STProperty, and followed by property agents. Demographics. So the largest group of these investors are in the age group of 41 to 50 years old. So this is quite intuitive because these are people who have amassed significant amount of wealth to park their investment. So I do see some of you here who belong to this age group. But the other interesting finding that we see is that increasingly property investor has become younger. So we do see quite a number of people who fall into age group of less than 30 years old who are really looking into property investment. So compared to 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we don't see that phenomenon. So it appears that increasingly our young people, young Singaporeans are getting more interested to jump into the property ladder at a younger age. I think partly because there's also more available options today for them. Next is the annual household income. To our surprise, there's quite a significant number falling into a category of more than 150,000 Sing dollar. Another industry person told me that in Singapore, a lot of people stay in HDB flat, but that doesn't mean that these people have no money. Actually, I was told when it comes to those who are staying in 5-room flats, half of these 5-room flat people have a combined household income of more than 12,000. So these people are actually sitting on quite a significant amount of cash, and these are the latent demand for property investment in Singapore. Okay, next is the investment preference. You notice the light blue quadrant is indicated by the condominium. So Singaporeans by and large are still condominium buyers, maybe because it's something that is familiar for them. And when it comes to going overseas, they also like to buy condominium. Then the other part, the other three segments that of interest to Singaporean buyers would be landed property, as denoted by the dark blue, and also office, which is the green, and last but not least, hotel, which is the orange. So increasingly, hotel investment also becomes more and more popular or trendy among Singaporeans. Of course, in this case, I think it's not talking about buying one whole hotel, but more buying one room in the hotel. And the operator will offer rental guarantee and also operation for the investor. So it's kind of hassle-free. So this is another trend we detected. And the desired budget for the property, it appears that a large portion of them, 42%, falls into the segment of 400,000 to 700,000 Sing, which also explains why people are still interested in Malaysia. Because although Najib introduced the cooling measures to say that foreigners can only buy 1 million ringgit property, but actually 1 million ringgit is equivalent to only 400,000 Sing dollar. So to many Singaporeans, 400,000 Sing dollar to buy a nice high-end condo in a prime district in KL is still a more interesting proposition compared to buying a HDB flat. But of course, there's also another group that has a budget that's lesser than 400,000. And I think this group likely will go for properties like Philippines, for example, because in markets like UK, they don't have that kind of price range unless you go out of London. Okay, since Malaysia is the most popular destination for Singaporean, we also asked the audience the question, why Malaysia? So apparently, there are 3 reasons that featured prominently. The first one is that its proximity to Singapore. So that gives Malaysia an unfair advantage over the other markets. So a lot of people find that it's convenient to visit the place, convenient to go and track, convenient to go and view, especially for Johor, Iskandar, for example. You just need to drive across. You don't need to buy an air ticket. Second is that it's more affordable than Singapore properties, which is, as mentioned earlier, even with 1 million ringgit rule, it's only 400,000 Sing. And plus, if you take a bank loan, the outlay is only 80,000 Sing, which is very low compared to buying any property in Singapore. And third is the upcoming infrastructure. I think there are some good stories coming from Malaysia, which include the high-speed rail and also the MRT network in KL. So that also spurred the Singaporean to invest because we are so familiar with investing in MRT station, near MRT station in Singapore. So when we go to Malaysia, we also apply the same mindset. Okay, then concern, what are the concerns? So the two main concerns is political stability, like what happened when if the Barisan Nasional lose the election, will there be political instability? And also government policy changes, like what if they say now foreigners can no longer buy property that is 1 million, they have to go up to 2 million. So these are some of the concerns that Singaporean investors have. And will the new policy changes deter you from purchasing Malaysian property? Most of them indicate that it will impact them, but they will still consider buying. Okay, so that rounds up a short snapshot of the survey that we have conducted in the previous seminar. So if you want to know what is the current sentiment on today's seminar for this quarter, feel free to fill up the survey form. I encourage you to fill up the survey form so that we have sufficient data to compare the trends and the preferences this quarter compared to last quarter. Okay, thank you.